As every avid gamer in 2022 knows, virtual reality is a ripe breeding ground for some of the most visceral first-person shooters on the market. Between the spatial movement and the immersive first-person perspective that allows players to act as the character vicariously, intense firefights have never felt more harrowing or realistic. Although there's no shortage of FPS titles on the market, only a select few really elevate their gaming experience through their distinct storylines and corresponding VR technology. From popular games like The Walking Dead and Resident Evil to lesser-known titles, the best of the bunch offer fully engaging gaming playthroughs like few others. Population 1 for those who want to experience a virtual reality Fortnite. Population 1 is a great place to start. The accessible and easy-to-play Battle Royale game follows teams of 3 that leap onto a giant open-world map and begin gunning each other down in a fight to the finish. Since there aren't many quests or complicated storylines, it's a great introduction for players who simply want to focus on blasting their way through as many enemies as possible. With endless updates and limited-time events to keep players engaged, the beloved 2020 Battle Royale game also has advanced climbing motion controls and a truly immersive flying feature that transcends most FPS VR games on the market. Boneworks for VR gamers looking to do more than just fight to the death in a Battle Royale setting. Boneworks is an ideal FPS to take on. The game finds players trapped in a surreal lab environment where hostile robots have gone rogue, forcing them to blast their way through enemies and solve a series of maddening puzzles to escape safely. The only real downside is that it is single-player. Thanks to its entirely physics-based mechanics that allow players to control the full body of the protagonist as well as react to the physical setting, Boneworks also separates itself from the FPS VR pack with its awesome arena mode that allows gamers to tinker with the melee physics of the VR controls, which they can reapply to the main campaign. Boneworks also boasts one of the most brutal and comprehensive arsenals of any FPS VR game. Sniper Elite VR. One of the most exhilarating FPS games to try includes Sniper Elite VR, a game set in World War II and exclusively built for VR. Players control a skilled marksman who snipes down enemies with a single precise shot at a time, with the visceral slow-motion effect calling to mind the Matrix's bullet time technology amped up to state-of-the-art standards. With 18 playable missions to keep players engaged for hours on end, Sniper Elite VR is one of the most adept games to feature the PSVR aim controller, and thanks to its awesome rebuilt kill cam for the VR screen, no game has ever made players feel more like a genuine World War II sniper. Of course, those looking to do more than just pick off enemies from afar can find more expansive FPS VR games. Phantom, covert ops for gamers who prefer to remain as stealthy as possible when taking on throngs of gun-toting enemies. Phantom, covert ops is one of the most unique and acclaimed FPS VR titles out there. Players control a secret agent tasked with infiltrating hostile enemy territory and completing a slew of missions, allowing players to decide for themselves how silent and sneaky they want to be. Keeping one's true identity hidden at all times is paramount, adding extra tension and suspense to an already visceral environment of abject gunfire. With impeccable graphics, engaging storylines, and highly immersive grit, Phantom, Covert Ops is essentially Call of Duty with a far greater emphasis on stealth. However, like Boneworks, the sole single-player mode leaves a lot to be desired when compared to some of the more popular multiplayer FPS VR games. The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners doubling as a fully immersive RPG and FPS alike, The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners remains one of the most impressive VR gaming experiences. The terrifying, oft-forgotten zombie FPS may not feature the most relentless action or intense shootouts, but the compelling storyline and dexterous weapon handling are second to none. It's no surprise the game was nominated for Best VR/AR title in 2020. As players control the tourist and amble through a zombie-strewn New Orleans, they must make their way to the reserve while surviving a deadly onslaught of attacks. For horror survival fans who've always had a twisted fantasy about taking on the zombie apocalypse, Saints Sinners is the closest thing to a real-life Walking Dead experience there can be. Supershot VR. Thanks to its minimalist aesthetic and unique ticking clock dynamic that causes time to move only when a player does, Supershot VR is one of the most satisfyingly original FPS to play in virtual reality. The feature slows time down and allows players to visualize their opponent's moves before they happen, empowering them to aim with pinpoint accuracy. Aside from the unforgettably awesome slow-motion feature, Supershot boasts one of the most captivating VR designs with its simple, smooth, yet surreal animation style that has very few graphical glitches and bugs. Whether hiding, ducking, dodging, rolling on the floor, or barrel rolling, Supershot VR features some of the most excitingly urgent first-person shootouts on record. Onward, an early release drawing favorable comparisons to the popular free-to-play FPS Battlefield, Onward is easily one of the most enthralling VR experiences in 2022. The military simulator pits 10 players divided into teams of 2 in an epic all-out war in a VR multiplayer arena that is perfect for online play with friends and family. What the game may lack in detailed graphics, it more than makes up for with its tactical strategizing that requires players to outwit and outmaneuver their opponents rather than simply shoot them to death. With excellent gunplay and realistic gameplay mechanics to go with expanded community-generated content, Onward is a highly replayable FPS VR game with far more versatility than many of its competitors. Pistol Whip. Unlike the slow-motion effects featured in Supershot and Sniper Elite VR, Pistol Whip increases the breakneck pace to empower players to feel like John Wick rather than Neo, leading to one of the most relentlessly immersive and hyper-violent FPS to play in VR. What really separates the game, however, are the rhythm-based mechanics that turn the game into an even more pumped-up VR version of Beat Saber or Thumper. Whether firing on enemies to the rhythm of music or being ensorcelled by the colorfully hypnotic tracks, Pistol Whip is a wildly amusing sensorial VR gaming experience that pushes the boundaries of what a first-person shooter can be. The best part, the in-game traversals are done for the player automatically, leaving them to simply focus on the mastery of marksmanship. Resident Evil 4 VR. One of the most popular horror-based FPS games in history elevated VR technology to a whole new level in Resident Evil 4 VR, a universally acclaimed experience for all FPS completists to try. Despite the cumbersome QTEs and fairly easy boss battles, 90% of the game is pure unadulterated first-person VR heaven. Or hell, in the case of a viral zombie outbreak overrunning Earth. With perplexing puzzles, polished graphics, mechanical upgrades made to the original, and an unparalleled amount of interactivity, players can explore some of the scariest horror settings and control every fiber of Leon's being, be it launching grenades, manually reloading firearms, stabbing enemies in 360 degrees, and more. As such, RE4 VR was named the best VR/AR game at the 2021 Game Awards. Half-Life: Alyx named Best VR/AR winner at the 2020 Game Awards. Half-Life: Alyx is the best FPS VR game, and it isn't particularly close. With a 93 Metascore to boot, the game is a Half-Life sequel specifically created for VR and features more exhaustive in-depth verisimilitude than any competitor. As such, it's been recognized as VR's first killer app. In guiding Alyx and her father through a harrowing police state in order to thwart the evil alien Combine, players experience deeply interactive full-room scale dynamics without getting motion sickness. For shooting specifically, the smart VR design keeps all firearms locked in one hand, giving players the freedom to use their full body to take cover in combat at once.
With a gentle touch, you tell me what